Louisiana All American Sports Show. Louisiana All American Sports Show. Louisiana All American Sports Show. Louisiana All American
Sports Show.
Louisiana All American
Sports Show.
Louisiana All American Sports Show. Louisiana.
What? Bring it, Joker.
If the sports you want to talk about, then listen to the hottest show that's
Got the
coming.
dirty south.
It's Eric Hatfield
What?
and Coach Gerard Daniels.
Man.
They're gonna sit you down and
Tell you all about the game. What? What? Where? Who? When? Where? In the nation.
Without hesitation.
Yeah, get with this.
Get your popcorn ready.
What they bet not miss.
Louisiana All
The
American.
what? Sports show.
Louisiana All American.
What? Sports show.
Louisiana All American. Sports show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Louisiana.
I'm just so fresh, so clean. Good, that's a deep soul. Good morning, Baton Rouge, and welcome to another edition of the Louisiana All American Sports Show. Today is Saturday, July 9th, 2016. It is a hot one outside, so you should be inside, turning on the radio, flipping on your computer, and chiming into this fantastic hour of sports talk radio on this fine Saturday morning. Good morning, this is Eric Hatfield.
And I'm Gerard Piper, a.k.a. Joker P.
And if you are a diehard of 96.9 FM WHYR, LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio, well, you should be, and you should be. Well, you're probably like, wow, we've heard these guys a lot. Well, it's because you have. Last night we had a Louisiana All American Sports Show special Friday edition discussing the crisis in Baton Rouge and across our country right now with the police-involved shootings and the shootings of police that happen here and in Minnesota and in Dallas, Texas, over the span of the last half week, really. First of all, we just cannot begin to thank enough everyone who made this possible. First and foremost, starting with the folks at WHYR who cleared a block for us on zero notice and said, hey, this is what we think you guys do well, have at it. Coach Perry Daniels and Joker P pulling some of the talent together. My friend Damon Hewitt, civil rights attorney who joined us last night, attorney George Tucker from Hammond, Reverend Flowers, and I cannot remember his first name, or Brother Muhammad, and I cannot remember his first name either. I'm very sorry, but they definitely helped us out a lot. T. Johnson, Mr. Ebanks, a lot of folks just really helped in. Miss Tawanda Boatner Green, yeah. So a lot of folks helped out. I know I'm probably forgetting somebody, but it took a lot of people to make this work very quickly. And I just want to say thank you so much for pulling it. Stacy for getting us that live, helping us get that live update from the protest site at Airline in Goodwood. Just everybody really pitched in. Brian Marks, Carla King in particular, WHYR really helped pull this together. So I can do shout-outs just about all day long. It's just how many people helped out. Look, it was a fantastic and compelling edition last night. I think there were a lot of takeaways from last night. And folks, we will get back to the business of sports today because besides the fact we were a sports show, after all this turmoil and heavy stuff, personally, I need a little sports. I always say, I said this 3 times last night, that in the department store of life, sports are in the toy section, and right now I need to play with some toys because this is some heavy stuff right now, and just for a few minutes I can use the getaway from the real world. Yeah, and it's surprising you say that because me and Coach was talking about that. That's Coach Perry Daniels. Mm-hmm. Hopefully he'll be calling here in a minute. Right. He's in Washington D.C., but we talked about how after all of the events that's happened within the last week, sometimes you need a little bit of a relief. Right. And so today we wanted to still go over the importance of the social issues. But we also want to provide a little bit of sports relief, a little entertainment, a little bit of, to try to, unwind a little bit and de-escalate, which probably is a new word we're hearing a lot. Yeah, I think it's a key word. I do believe that is really the key to this whole crisis. I'll tell you, talk about the relief of sports. I was listening. I mean, I've been locked into the news all week, and usually I lock into the news even in a boring week. But I mean, this has been anything but, unfortunately. And when the shootings happened in Dallas last night, I mean, I was like, not last night, Thursday night. I mean, I was locked to the screen, probably like a lot of folks. got up and I have the CNN app on my phone and was watching CNN. And like I think when they announced the death toll got to 5 for the cops, I literally couldn't take anymore. And I said, you know what? I know this is important. I got to watch the Sports Center though. I said, and I was this was such a huge story. I was concerned that even Sports Center might be talking about it because ESPN like on 9/11 they weren't talking about basketball. They were talking about 9/11, right? So I said, please let them not be talking about this. I flipped there. They're talking about the Golden State Warriors and Kevin Durant. I'm like, whoo! Finally, got a break, got a relief. So
well, I want to, Reverend Dale Flowers came last night and wanted to thank him. We also want to reach out and be able to get with that brother again, Dr. Amos, Professor Gerard Johnson. We're going to have some big things here lined up in the near future, and we will be reaching out to try to make an impact more in our community, because I thought last night was great dialogue, and it was what we needed. It was kind of taking the scab off, so to speak, and hey, let's just get down to it. Everybody's opinion, everybody's emotions, and then we can start to deal with it and try to come together for a common solution. But it had a lot of protesters that was out last night. I wanted to read this story. It's in the Advocate, and it was about 30 people arrested at the Alton Sterling protest. And I want to read what it says. It says here that about 20 to 30 protesters were arrested and booked into a parish prison stemming from a demonstration Friday night and early Saturday morning outside of Baton Rouge Police Headquarters. Numerous people were seen detained, some restrained with zip ties around their wrists during the fourth night of protests after Alton Sterling was killed by a Baton Rouge police officer on Tuesday in the Baton Rouge area. The head of the state police defended his troopers' work Friday night and early Saturday morning as lawmen faced off with the crowd protesting the police killing of Alton Sterling. And, they showing the pictures with the cops with sticks, and it almost looked like a confrontation. And it that was the point that I was really trying to make last night. We can talk about a lot of systemic changes, or we can talk about radical changes or whatever. But to me, I think the core issue is the relationship between the police and the people. Because it doesn't matter if a person thinks a certain way about this person, and it goes the same way. Because I to be honest with you, I'm going to need a little bit of that, because I'm apprehensive when it comes to the police, and I know there's good police out there. So I'm sure they're apprehensive in the way that they see things. You know what I mean? And so we have to bridge that gap. It's always going to be that tension.
And look, I try as best I can to put myself in other people's shoes. I'm sure if I'm just a regular old cop that wants to go home, drink a beer, and see my wife and kids, I might be a little scared, especially if you're new to the film. Baton Rouge hasn't dealt with this kind of stuff very often. Very rare. The most biggest crowd you get is at LSU and Southern football.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not used to this. I might be a little scared. But the good news is, I'm not really thrilled about the 30 arrests. It is what it is. But it doesn't sound like there was a lot of violence last night. It sounds like even the arrests seem to go without much of a hitch. I'm not really thrilled about the arrests. But, you don't hear about looting and violence and stuff like that. And it is starting to ramp up a little bit, but at the moment, I'd still like to put Baton Rouge ahead of the curve of other cities that have dealt with such crises at this point. Joker, you hit on a very important point about relationships, not only with the police. Everything in life, if you think about it, is about relationships. Now, I'll give a simple everyday example. We have a social contract that says if we're going to be licensed to operate a motor vehicle and we drive a car, that when we see a red light, we are going to stop. That is that's a relationship that's kind of understood that we have with society, a very basic one. It's very unremarkable. It happens every day.
Right.
I come and see you, several times a week to call sports games and to do this show, and we kind of, understand each other's roles. We don't even, at this point, we've been working together long enough, we don't really have to talk about what to do. We just go in and do it sometimes, right? That's a relationship. We have relationships with the person, the clerk at the store. We know some guys you can joke with, some guys you can, whatever. We have everything in life, I guess what I'm saying, is about relationships. Some relationships are good. There's always that person at work you don't like. You only go to their desk when you need them. The police officers are people, and it's no different. And I do think the thing is, it's systemic and it's wholesale. It's not just you or me. It's an entire neighborhood, an entire community. But if you got that one guy, and there are some cities in the South, we talked about this months ago, and I wish I could remember because you gave me a couple of good examples where the cops know it, like you see on In the Heat of the Night, where everybody, in these small towns, they go through these neighborhoods, and the cops know every person by name. They know where everyone lives. They know who their kids are, and vice versa. I guarantee you that when those relationships occur, okay. Okay. Yeah, I guarantee you when that happens, you're going to have just better relationships in general. Good, bad. The good will be better. The bad won't be so bad, and the otherwise might be ahead of the curve. And on the phone, we have Coach Perry. I just bungled that. Coach Perry Daniels joining us live from the nation's capital. It's the father of the Louisiana All American Sports Show on the line, Coach Perry Daniels. Good morning, Coach. How are you doing today?
Oh, wow, man, it's been an emotional evening, an emotional week, and, you know, it's just, we need some relief, and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about, but I want to do it at the appropriate point in the show. I've been unable to hear the first part of the show, but at some point before I have to go back to what I'm doing, I want to put on my yoga instructor hat, which I don't usually wear in this forum.
That's right.
And kind of help our folks listen.
Hey, but you're right on point because actually when we started on the show, Eric was mentioning that he was going to, we're going to bring a little bit of sports today to kind of deflect a little bit. And I brought up and mentioned that your name and mentioned that me and you had talked about having a little bit of relief after all of the things that's been going on. So today we definitely going to try to, of course, still talk about the issues, but we're going to try to give a little sports relief here today. And now you got the yoga, so I may have to take my shoes off.
So right now is actually a really good time to dive into that.
Exactly.
So
okay, awesome.
Go right in.
I appreciate that. Okay, so let me before I say that, let me share an experience that I just had to show the common humanity and the love that people in general have for each other. I'm sitting in a classroom moments ago, and a very diverse classroom, and there is I have a cohort that is of Korean descent, and she has no idea what I do on Louisiana All American Sports, or what we were engaged in last night, or that I have any connection with Baton Rouge or any of that situation. And she comes up to me out of the blue and says, "I apologize for what took place in Minnesota."
Wow. That's refreshing and rare. That is refreshing and rare. That's interesting.
How did you
tell me. Tell us more about that, Coach.
How did that make you feel?
Yeah.
Did it make you feel like she's doing it because of, obviously she's Korean, so, but is it some type of guilt, or did you take it as more sympathy, or just someone trying to understand? That's pretty deep.
It showed me that we all need some therapy regarding the issue. So,
Coach.
The entire country needs therapy regarding the issue. Everybody wants to feel like they're doing something to resolve the issue, and that was her way of being able. She had an opportunity to communicate with an African American that she felt comfortable with, and she did. She took advantage of it, and that's just a beautiful thing. That shows the common humanity in us all.
Wow.
I was about to use those exact words, common humanity.
Absolutely.
And
Let me go ahead, Joker.
That's just that was amazing to me, Coach. That definitely inspired me today, because it's like sometimes when you see things and so much on TV and your emotions and everything, something just like that can really show you what life is all about. You know what I mean? And it also shows me that sometimes when you think people are not concerned, or people are not watching or listening, that they have people out there it is more good than it is bad out there, in other words.
Right.
And the good, and a lot of times the goodness doesn't show in people, and it gives us a kind of a warped prism in looking at people. But for her to come up to you like that, you know, I can imagine how you felt. So, man, that's what's up. You know, I needed that too today.
That's really encouraging to hear. And then nobody, and I always say this because nobody lives in a vacuum. There's, for a lady like this, there are 100 others like that, 100, maybe 1,000 other people like that out there. Nobody lives in a vacuum. Most people are ordinary people, and so chances are, if you've had that experience with that lady, there'll hopefully be a few hundred more experiences like that, and maybe a few thousand more people who at least feel that way. If that makes any sense. I'm just throwing numbers out there, but I hope y'all get the general idea.
Absolutely, Eric, and not to overlook the small, the gestures. I'm not sure I can label them small, but even the gestures of WHYR and the staff, and you know, that doesn't go unnoticed.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, we mentioned that at the top of the hour.
Yes, most definitely.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, we definitely and on the same vibe, on the same frequency, because we talked about that as soon as the show started, with how the support of the staff, man, how awesome those guys are, and how concerned they were in coming in and helping us out.
Giving us this outlet, you know?
Oh, yes, indeed. I don't know. We also read a story this morning.
Yeah.
Actually, Brian gave me the link to the story, and it was about last night. They had young protesters, which we talked about last night, on Goodwood in front of the precinct. And about 30 people was in the Advocate. About 30 people were arrested last night, and they had the police had sticks, and it kind of looked at like the same Ferguson type of thing, even though it wasn't any violence or anything that happened last night. But that was the point I was trying to make last night about the relationship between the police officers and the public. And I even mentioned that myself, I have to deal with that better, because I have a kind of warped, I don't trust the police, and so, and I know it's good police. I know police, several of them, and we're good friends.
Right.
But it's just I know when it comes down to that, that's a group too, you know, and they're going to go with that group, and so, you know, I have to work on that though. You know what I mean? But it's just because of my experiences, and I know that there's police out there that feel the same way. They may not have interacted with people of different races or whatever, and they have grown up with them, they have went to school with them, so they don't really know how to deal with them. Eric mentioned that he probably would be, you know what I mean, if put in a situation, he probably would be a little afraid out there. So I know, but until we be able to try to blend that, I don't know how to do that except through talking and trying to come to, you know, some type of solution. But until we bridge that cops and robbers and, you know, cowboys and Indians type of, you know what I'm saying, disdain for each other or distrust of each other, until we start trying to bridge that, then I don't think we're going to always not trust them. They're going to always think that we're bad. That's how, in a sense, you know, we don't try.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me say that I am extremely proud of the young people of Baton Rouge for doing what they did last night. Let me explain civil disobedience. Eric, I'm going to kind of talk to our good friend from Madison Prep, Lamont Cole, who was trying to quiet the crowd, and let me just explicitly state that
Councilman Cole now.
Councilman Cole, I believe he's still affiliated with them as well, but you know, there's not too many people from the Madison Prep family that I have more respect and admiration for than Lamont Cole. So let me say that first. But here's the situation. See, these young people look at this situation as if folks of our generation, of our age, had the right model and the right way to create change, then they wouldn't have to be out in the street. So what we're telling them to do, the proper way to do it, that doesn't resonate with them, and obviously we don't know, because we haven't gotten the job done.
Well, they wouldn't be in the first place.
That's right.
They're still dealing with the issue.
That's right.
So for folks of that age, of our age, to demand something of those folks, it is inappropriate.
They're not listening.
It is inappropriate. Now, civil disobedience is not asking the police, is it okay or for their permission to block this intersection? Not, well, if you come back Sunday, then we will allow you to do it. That's not civil disobedience. That's asking, someone said it last night on our panel.
That's Mr. Tucker.
That's asking Mr. Charlie, okay, do we have permission to do this? And those young people, they recognize that. So someone mentioned last night, well, this is where Mr. Cole lost the crowd when he said, well, this isn't where it happened. Well, as long as we're protesting and blocking streets in our own community, they'll let us do that all night.
You go to Airline in Goodwood, you got attention. You got my attention because I got to go there to go home. So, yeah.
Absolutely. That's what it's designed to do, to let the entire society know this affects you as well. We are not going to just allow this to stay confined in the hood.
Yep.
This affects everybody. So great job, young folks. Mr. Cole, I still love you. I still love you.
I love Mr. Cole, man.
What you do. I appreciate what you do for the community. Let me say this, fellas. From a relaxation standpoint, unplug from the media, from social media, conventional media. Unplug for it. Take a walk today. In the mornings, take some time to just sit in stillness. Cut the radio off, cut the TV off, and you can start with just a few minutes, not moving the body, and just sit in some stillness so that you can re-energize, and you will be amazed at how quickly and how effective that will be on the body. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. You can start with whatever your body can do for minutes at a time. Focus on the breath. Try to get the breath as deep in the body as possible, and making sure that the inhales and the exhales are evenly distributed. And that will allow you to go within to be your safe place. And we all need that type of re-energizing after such a traumatic, emotional week. Let me say this lastly. We need you to be re-energized because we can't stop until there's change. We can't go back to life as normal, or else we're going to be facing this again. We're going to be facing this again. So take as many breaks as you need, but know that we're going to need you back in the game, and we're going to need everybody back in the game at some point. Some need to break longer than others. I get it. But we can't stop this movement until we affect change.
This was Yoga Time with Coach Perry Daniels. I've read something like what you said before. I think it's great advice. I'm going to try it today, actually. I think it's great advice. And let's look, if we didn't have a song picked out, I actually have a song picked out. Oh, well, go ahead, Joker.
Yeah, we have a song picked out. I actually played it last night, and it's the same title what he was saying. It's a reggae artist.
All right, go
named Bongo Canny, and he has a song called Civil Disobedience.
All righty, fire away. And we're going to come back on the other side while Joker's getting that queued up. We're going to come back on the other side. Hey, we are the Louisiana All American Sports Show. And folks, we will get back to sports for the last half hour of this show, I promise.
We promise.
We ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Check it out, folks.
What's your occupation? Join the demonstration. Yeah. Working from 9 to 6. You got the crumbs from the biscuits. No, now here we cry. this trap. Civil disobedience in a China. Civil disobedience in a London. Civil disobedience Afghanistan. Whoa. Civil disobedience all over the world. Boy, the boy, the boy, the boy, boy, yeah. Time revealing, yeah. The leaders ain't leading. Whoa. Man and money, hand-picked dummies, delivering bad news. Oh, ignorant of truth, incarcerating tongues. Was it guns for guns? Civil disobedience in Japan. Oh. Civil disobedience, Brazil. Civil disobedience in Libya. Oh, Africa, civil disobedience, Caribbean, civil disobedience, can you get on? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Take your occupation, join this demonstration, working 9 to 6, pick up the crumbs from the biscuit. No, nah, here we cry, bonus for the big guys, we are laughing stock, got to get out this trap. Civil disobedience, civil disobedience, civil disobedience, civil disobedience. Boy, the boy.
And that was Civil Disobedience. And man, what a great song. I thought it definitely applies to the situation that's going on. But hey,
very fitting and very telling.
I know you had what's going on, Marvin Gaye.
Yep, I had that queued up, but I didn't realize we had picked out a song. But I think this is I think they're both fitting. This is a little more contemporary, a little more to the point too.
Hey, I don't know if you remember, but what's going on? I always thought that would be my theme song.
Mm-hmm.
That song right there, Marvin Gaye. So, man, big ups. But back to the sports, baby.
Hey, look. Well, first of all, we know what's been heavy in the news in the sports world. But I would be remiss if I not at least mention this morning that Serena Williams.
Yes.
What is it? You know,
yes.
I know you can. You know, I want to kind of paraphrase. Oopsie daisy. I want to almost paraphrase Usher a little bit from the song "More." She's a beast. She's an animal. She's a monster in the mirror. A headliner, a winner, a closer, a finisher.
She fine.
Ooh, or Serena Williams, 22 major titles. She has tied the great Steffi Graf, winning Wimbledon this morning. I was up, of course, with WHYR pretty late last night, so I slept in pretty late this morning. I missed the final, but Serena is just absolutely torn through Wimbledon. She has been tearing through the majors really the last 2 years. At an age, I think she's 35 now. She's on a tear, the likes of which we've only seen out of the Chris Evert Lloyds, the Martina Navratilova, the Maggie Courts, the Steffi Grafs in their 20s.
In their 20s, but this one was kind of not easy because she lost the last 2 Grand Slam finals before she was able to finally tie the record. She lost in the French Open final, and then she lost that real big upset.
The U.S. Open.
Yeah, the U.S. Open and the Australian.
It was the Aussie, you're right. It was the Aussie, French and the Aussie, you're right.
Yeah, so, I mean, now to finally get that kind of monkey off her back.
Right.
And still with U.S. Open to come after the Wimbledon, so she has a great chance to break the record.
Here's a funny thing, Joker. We're talking about those quote-unquote upset losses in the Australian Open and the Roland Garros, the French Open. She was in the finals, and she had won 4 consecutive before
the Serena Slam.
Yeah, the Serena Slam, and she almost got the Grand Slam. She had been on a tear of like 3 or 4 or 5 straight majors. I've actually started to lose count. She's been on a tear. I mean, she's been in the finals now. The last, I could be wrong, tennis fans call 343-9927, 225-343-9927. I want to say it's like 8 or 9 consecutive Grand Slams she's been in the finals. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's like Tiger Woods' tear when he was in his mid-20s.
Right.
I mean, it's not the same sport, but I mean, it's just the run this lady is on.
In her 30s.
In her 30s is just remarkable. So I would be remiss if I did not mention that. I was going to try to find out who the opponent was, but really it's just just a footnote on that. I know she got a little bit of challenged a little bit in the quarterfinals, but as usual, she blew right through that. I just, we're going to definitely talk some basketball, but it's amazing that the run that Serena Williams has been on, the way she has absolutely dominated Wimbledon. The only thing that disappointed me, frankly, was that Venus Williams lost in the semifinals, and actually that was a little bit of a comeback for her, just getting to the semis. I wanted to see a Venus and Serena finals, but she did beat. She got Angelique Kerber in straight sets, 7-5, 6-3, and that is it. And that is that. And she has now tied the great Steffi Graf. To my knowledge, I believe she only trails now Maggie Court and maybe Chris Evert as far as Grand Slam titles.
Chris Evert at this point. It's Steffi Graf and
Margaret Court. So that is it. That's incredible. That's amazing. I mean, in my opinion, she's the greatest of all time.
Yes, without a doubt.
I had a debate with a friend about a year or two ago saying she was arguably the greatest of all time, and he went on this rant. I don't know, arguably, blah, 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 blah. I said, well, let's just give it a little while. Well, that was before that run she won, the Serena Slam. Well, that's out the window. I'd say last name ever, first name greatest. But
the GOAT.
Yes. But now, Coach, are you still on the line? We have lost Coach, I believe. But now, shouts
out to Coach, man.
Oh yeah. No, look, I appreciate him sharing that with us. I thought that was very. I think he opened up himself to the public in a way. He opened up himself personally to the public in a way that a lot of us, I don't think I've really done. A lot of folks don't do very often. But that was real. That was real talk.
Yeah, that was definitely real talk, man, and it touched me too, also. So,
But
shouts out to Coach, man.
Absolutely. Whoopsie daisy.
Yeah, what? Ready?
I thought I was ready, but I think I got some nonsense playing in the background. Let me just fix this real quick. Alrighty, so now we get to the main event. Man. Getting back to sports, man.
There's a lot going on.
Yep, we had a lot of activity going on in the NBA.
Yeah, man. What a relief. Let's talk about it.
And there's a lot. The NBA is a lot like the NFL. I mean, it's kind of becoming a year-round business. The season ain't over when the season's over, if you will. Of course, the big story of the week in free agency is former MVP and I got 6, 7, 8-time All-Star. I've lost count. Kevin Durant, former Western Conference champion, long time with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Of course, is in free agency, and he has signed with the Golden State Warriors. Joe, can you have details on the contract? I thought I heard
2 years.
2 years, 57.
Yeah, $57 million to 2 years. He can actually opt out after his first year. In a way. But what are your thoughts about it? What do you think? You know, you've been catching a lot of flack. Some people comparing him to LeBron James. Some people saying this. Some people saying that. Well, what do you think?
It's a fair comparison to LeBron James. I think it's comparable because they both went to organizations that were better suited for them, better opportunities that will bring them closer to winning a championship, which they have not won yet. Look, it's so funny when these things happen with superstars that the whole social media just blows up, and some people think it's great, and some people think, oh, he sold out, and Charles Barkley runs this trap. Back in my day, I never did that, even though he went to Phoenix and to Houston.
Right.
Look, Kevin Durant, I'd say all for him. Look, he's put in his 7 years or 8 years in OKC. I've actually lost track.
9 years.
9 years. Look, it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked, and he's going for an opportunity. He wants to win. He's leaving 2 years, $57 million, when he, under this new salary cap, could have maxed out OKC for, I want to say, $180 million or something like that. Probably more than that. He left a lot of money on the table, both in per year and total guaranteed dollars. So this man has taken a haircut in his bank account for a chance to win a title. Golden State is sharing the wealth because they had they can't just max. They couldn't offer him just the max and pay the luxury tax. You have Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson. They're all willing to share the glory to win a title because this is a team. This is a great team. This is what you could call a historically great team that's only won one title, which is not historically great.
Right. Actually, I think we talked about this. I said that if the GM of Golden State would have made some type of blockbuster trade with the Thunder and got Kevin Durant, and then they would have said, "Oh, the GM is such a genius, and he did this," because it would have been out of Kevin Durant's hands. He would have been traded. But now that he wants to go for a better job, basically, it's like being here and then ESPN calls calls me and you and say, "Hey,
Let me tell you, keep going, Joker. I'm just trying to provide the background for the moment.
Right. So I kind of look at it sort of like that. To me, it's like when the athletes take their future in their hands and they start to make their own decisions. They start to plan their own future. They're looked at as commodity in a sense, like we own you, or you're hey, this guy is trying to take the best opportunity for him. You know what I mean? I don't understand why players now have that opportunity. Now, of course, back in the days with Charles Barkley and Magic and all, the free agency was different. Things were different right then. And so, every time I hear people try to project or try to put the past and try to make it like today, it is not today. Is
exactly.
Today. You know what I mean? Things are totally different. These guys wasn't even born back then. So
they're not hearing that.
Right. They're not.
They don't know anything.
You can't hold them accountable to that. You know what I mean? When you look at all the big dollars that these teams are making, and these players are trying to put themselves in the best position. Because Kevin Durant is looking at it like this. Okay, I'm a 3 or 4 time scoring champion. I'm a league MVP. I'm a first team All NBA 6 times. I've won an Olympic gold medal already.
I forgot about that, yeah.
And so when he look at these same guys that's complaining, the Barkleys and the Reggie Millers, when we talk about the best, we don't talk about Barkley or Reggie Miller.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
That probably bothers Barkley and Reggie Miller.
Exactly. Even though these guys were great and Hall of Fame players.
Pioneers, too.
Pioneers, but we don't talk about them like we're going to talk about the Kobe. All the one we talking about, the Tim Duncan, that's why we don't talk about Karl Malone. Karl Malone to me is one of the best power forwards.
All time.
I would take Karl Malone probably over Tim Duncan. That's just my personal preference. I know most people probably would take Tim Duncan. I like Karl Malone. I like the way he ran the floor. He had the mid-range jump. He played defense. I just like that physical play that he did. And he's number 2 in all-time leading scorer. So, but most people would probably take Tim Duncan. But and the reason why we talk about Tim Duncan because he has the rings. And Karl Malone
a lot of them
doesn't have any rings. And so Kevin Durant don't want to fall into that category. Because when we start talking to the great players, they're going to be mentioned as Steph Curry's and the LeBron and the Wades and the Kobe's because they got rings.
And you can never take it away.
And watch what happened to Carmelo if he don't get a ring. He's going to be a great scorer, just like Kevin Durant. He's a great scorer. He's been this, he's been that, but he hasn't won anything. And Kevin Durant's starting to look at his future.
Yeah, ask Peyton Manning what you call a guy who did not play well in 2 Super Bowls. 2-time champion. What do you call the guy who finished last in medical school? Doctor. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Once he gets that ring, that's a class he's in that can never be taken away. And I'll tell you what, I'm very grateful for the opportunities afforded us here at WHYR. I love doing what we do every Saturday, but I'll tell you what, Ooh, Lord help me. If ESPN calls up on that phone.
And say, hey, we want you guys. We listen to you guys show Stephen A. and
Right.
Skip's already gone. You know, he's going to another program, and Stephen A.'s contract is on the end of this year. We want to take you guys Louisiana All American show, and
yeah, we want to make it All Americans. ESPN's All American Sports. We want to put y'all on right before Michael and Tony. You know what I'm saying? Man, I'll tell you what. You know the sound you'd hear coming out.
What the sound you go? You would be going that fast, huh?
Oh, it'd be quick. I'd leave some cookies for Brian and Miss Carla. With a little bow around it. Shoot.
Oh man, y'all not going to and hold it down, but just where you started. You've been here years, and
I'll stay till Noel comes on. I'll finish the show, man. I mean, that's the thing. No rational, normal person would blame you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just people have a right to better themselves, and I think it's good for the league. I think Barkley has the wrong idea about we're going to kill the golden goose. No, other teams have to be competitive, and I'll tell you what, I saw a lot of mid-range teams bring in a lot of those B players, those B plus and B minus players that help lift, ping pong ball teams to playoff teams and so on. So I think it's helped the competitive landscape. And as far as the money, I mean, the players we get blown away by the money that's being paid. But people have to understand, basketball players are the high. It used to be when we were kids, always baseball players are the highest in the sport. I kind of grew up with that mindset. Perry and I were on the air a couple of years ago. And I kind of mentioned something. He's like, I said the average salaries. They said, no, it's got to be baseball players. I'm like, Perry, let me double check that. But I think I read something somewhere. And sure enough, it was this is about 3 years ago. NBA players, $5 million a year. MLB players were like 3.5, and NHL I think was third, and NFL is of course always in the bottom. But that's a whole other story for a whole other day.
Yeah, but these guys like Ronaldo, those guys make
CEO money. I mean, that's a whole different $60 million a year. That's a whole different story.
You just mentioned it though. I think the parity with Kevin Durant is going to actually it's going to cause more viewers to watch because people are going to want to watch them.
It's going to be a show.
And look at San Antonio. They got
LaMarcus.
They got LaMarcus Aldridge, but they also got Paul Gasol.
Did not know that.
Yeah, they got Paul Gasol.
Did not know that.
Also, Golden State got David West.
Right.
So they're
big role player.
Yeah, big role player. And we were looking at, of course, Dwayne Wade going back to Chicago with Rajon Rondo.
And Jimmy Butler's still there for now, right?
Jimmy Butler's still there. But in the East, then we got Ben Simmons with Philadelphia. So he's going to be a rookie. That's going to be in the East. It's going to be the LeBron. And how is Ben Simmons doing in the East? In the West?
Let's not forget the Knicks.
And the Knicks.
Derrick Rose, Carmelo Anthony, and Joakim Noah. So they're going to have a post this year.
With what's his name?
Zydrunas Ilgauskas?
Not Ilgauskas, but the other, the guy they drafted last year.
That's a shame. And I can't pronounce it. Porzingis.
Porzingis.
I got to get that right. That's terrible. Porzingis, thank you.
Porzingis.
Yeah.
So, that's going to be very interesting to watch.
He's retired. I'm tripping, man. It's one of those days. Sorry about that, folks. I haven't had enough of coffee yet. Anyway, I'm sorry, Joker. Go ahead, man.
So, I think on the West is going to be San Antonio, trying to see if they are watching how many games can Golden State. Can they top 73? Which I don't think. What do you think? You think with Kevin Durant, can they get it?
Look, man, I know. Look, we tend to get, and I know I tend to get overexcited when you have big transactions in sports. But I actually made a comment to a friend of mine. I said, "Man, Golden State's gonna be going for 80 wins next year." Okay, I'm gonna pull back on that. But a repeat of 70 wins is probably an expectation at this point because the West. Now you still got San Antonio, but those are probably the teams that are going to give them their 9, 10, 11 losses next year. But you don't have a lot of you don't have, except for San Antonio. You used to have OKC, but not anymore.
What about under 68? What would you?
Oh, I'd say over. If I had to take, that's a good over under. That's a great. If I were a bookie, that was where I'd set the number at. I'd take the over, but I think it's a perfect over under number, Joker. We might have to save that and record that for this time next year. But they're gonna have competition from San Antonio. Maybe a little from the Clippers with that circus that goes on there. It's not the talent. It's what goes on behind the scenes that makes me wonder about them. Oklahoma City's out of it now. All they got is Russell Westbrook, and they even lost some role players. Keep an eye.
They're going to trade Russell Westbrook too. He's next because the GM won't allow Russell to go throughout the whole season and become a free agent, and then
And get
don't
nothing.
get nothing in return.
Yeah,
So
and he should, and I think that's a wise choice for all parties involved.
He just happened with him with Durant, so I don't think he's going to let that happen again.
Keep an eye on the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'll tell you why. I think they came very close to making the playoffs in a very competitive, Western Conference, but they have Andrew Wiggins. They have finally a healthy Ricky Rubio. And there's a third role player. I'm forgetting who's important to this
the
whole
big man
deal.
in the middle.
Yeah.
And then the big Towns, Carl.
Thank you, Carl Anthony Towns. Thank you, Joker. I'm just not on my game this morning. Rookie of the year, and Carl Anthony Towns towards the end of the year looked like he was getting better and better and better, just not in time enough to get Minnesota into the playoffs. Watch out for them next year. I'm not saying they're going to compete with Golden State in seedings. Don't be surprised if they steal one against the Warriors next year. But I think in the West, you're looking at San Antonio and Golden State at this moment, with the LA Clippers, of course, kind of being the little brother tugging behind them in third place, if you will. The East is going to be interesting. I still think you hand the Eastern Conference to Cleveland right now. But look, Atlanta made a power move. They got Dwight. You know who else made a couple of moves? And I don't have it in front of me. The Rockets made a couple of moves I saw for some what I call some key B players. I remember seeing some of those fly across the screen. If you can find it, that'd be great.
I'll take a look for it. What I see now is, of course, the big trades are basically, like I said, Dwayne Wade, Dwight Howard going back home to Atlanta Hawks. But in the East, when you look at it, and that's kind of the thing with the NBA. You can probably pick about 4 teams, and one of those teams is going to win the NBA Finals.
Exactly.
So in the East, I think it's going to be Cleveland, but I think the storylines are going to be, of course, Dwayne Wade, Chicago, but it's going to be mostly Ben Simmons. He's a rookie. They want to see how this guy develop in Philly, and that's going to be the story. It's going to be, which I don't think they're going to do a lot, but they're going to be watching him. They're already watching him in the summer league, and they're liking what they're seeing.
Oh yeah, he's a very talented player, which is why he's wasting his career in Philly. But that is a dysfunctional organization, Joker. But I think it's Cleveland and the rest in the East. I think the Knicks, with the talent they accrue, have become relevant again, and they made the Knicks relevant again. I think Atlanta is probably going to get a top 3 spot in the East with the move they made. I think the Bulls are going to be back in the playoff picture. I think Toronto, I think Biyombo is one of the guys that went to Houston. I can't pronounce his first name. He really stood out in the playoffs. It was a force in the middle, both offensively and defensively.
Yes, it was
Biyombo went to Houston. What's his first name? I can't pronounce it.
I can't pronounce it.
So the gentleman of African descent named Biyombo.
And he was real big in the playoffs, and that's what got him that contract. He played real good against LeBron James, had a couple of blocks. Actually, the big guy with that team went down. What it was? I can't think of his name.
White dude.
Yeah. And that allowed him to step in.
I should be ashamed. I should be in basketball mode, and I'm not. But yeah, it allowed Biyombo to make a name for himself.
Right.
Whatchamacallit? Hassan Whiteside, same thing. He parlayed a great playoff run into a big contract. He got paid, man.
Yeah.
But I think Toronto, the smart thing they did was they kept DeMar DeRozan, and that's why I think they're going to be in the mix next year. I think you look at it. Cleveland and Atlanta, and there'll probably be some third or fourth team that makes a little hay. Could be New York, could be Chicago, but that's not much competition in the East. I think, like I said, you can pretty much pencil in right now Cleveland in the NBA Finals versus Golden State, with San Antonio saying, "Hey, don't forget about us." You know what I'm saying? I mean, they seem to. Another thing with San Antonio, I thought about this when you mentioned Pau Gasol. San Antonio really seems to have a gift for the old guys. If you're over 30, you got a home there. It's like those clubs you see where your parents might have gone to. It says nobody under 35, nobody under 25 admitted, nobody under 30.
Right.
That seems to be the same. Yeah, like San Antonio. You're under 30, you don't have any place here, man, unless we drafted you.
Right.
I mean, they go for but that's that Popovich formula, man.
That's the formula, because Popovich runs plays, and so it allows him and players that have gotten a little age on them to thrive with that team. A lot of other teams, they play pick and roll, or they play one-on-one type, spread the floor type of basketball, wide open type basketball. But Popovich is one of the few teams that still kind of runs plays. That's why they get a lot of backdoor cuts. Their offense is so efficient, and so it allows someone to come down there and be able to really fall in line with that. Because you look at the Boris Diaws and stuff like that. With other teams, they're not that good, but within that system, that's what makes Popovich probably the best coach in the game as we speak today.
No, and that's why I'm not going to write. I mean, I really thought we were primed for a San Antonio Golden State showdown. Oklahoma City, just they stepped it up, which is kind of what made it. It kind of made it a bit of a shame that KD didn't stay in OKC, just because I think a lot of folks thought, man, they might have started to crack that code that they needed. Why not give it another year? But look, San Antonio's going to be back. San Antonio's going to be a threat for the finals. San Antonio's going to be in the mix. I believe Tim Duncan said, I don't know. I think Tim Duncan has 6 million reasons to come back.
Right.
6 million guaranteed reasons to come back. And Popovich is not going to overwork him. He never does. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens out there. And then you have, what about the Pelicans? I mean, the Pelicans didn't make a lot of splashes. They got a lot of, they made
I like the Buddy Hill.
I like the draft pick. I was going to say, in free agency, they made some B- moves, but I do like the draft pick. But, here's what hurts. They lost Ryan Anderson. Did Ryan Anderson go to Houston? Was that another one? Somebody paid him a fistful of money, but they lost Ryan Anderson, and that hurt a lot. I think he's probably the most underrated player on that roster. They also, if I remember, I believe I heard through the grapevine they lost Eric Gordon, but I cannot confirm that. The Pelicans. I'm not a big fan of Alvin Gentry. I think I've not so subtly said that throughout the course of the year. But man, you got to give the guy something to work with. And yeah, he has one of probably the top 3 to top 5 player. He has a top 3 to top 5 player in Anthony Davis, no doubt about that. But Drew Holiday, if he's healthy, great. But you don't know. I mean, he's sometimes he's played 70 games, sometimes he's played 40. Last year he wasn't there a whole lot. You got to have a healthy point guard. Buddy Hield will provide shooting. And shooting means scoring, and that's going to be significant. But they need another big bat in that lineup, so to speak, to use a baseball analogy. They need another heavy bat to really be a contender in the West, to really stake their claim. Houston's in that same division, and they made all kinds of moves to get better. And Houston made the playoffs last year. San Antonio, of course, is always making its moves. We made some B-, we moved some B- players around, some C+ B- players. That's not going to get it done, I don't think, No,
I don't think that's going to get it done either. I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't really make no real big splashes, or we had kind of been under the radar. But I'm holding my judgment to see, because sometimes trying to make just big drastic changes, could be detrimental to you. So they already have a team there, and see if this year just adding just a little bit can and Davis coming back, that we may be able to make a little push.
I might be mispronouncing this. The player that was injured for Toronto was Jonas Valanciunas. That was the guy. That was the cat that got hurt. It's probably why I couldn't remember his name, because I can barely pronounce it as I'm reading it here in print. But look, Anthony. The key is, if Anthony Davis plays 82 games, or not even 82, let's say plays 70 games, I think the Pelicans are in the playoffs or have a puncher's shot at the playoffs. And he was missing for a lot of games last year. Now, some of those were after the Pelicans fell out of contention, and they just set him down, and that was the responsible choice to make. But you can't. In the definition of insanity, we talked about cliches last night. Cliches exist for a reason, because they've proven to be true over time. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And really, other than Buddy Hield, I didn't see anything that the Pelicans did different. They lost some key bench players. Eric Gordon, the 20 games a year he plays, he puts up some good points. He was injury riddled, but Ryan Anderson I thought was a big loss, and they didn't replace him with anything. I'm concerned about that. I really am. I'm not optimistic about the Pelicans next year. I mean, if Anthony Davis plays a lot of games, they have a shot to slip into the playoffs. But this is a team with the potential to really take it up. By the way, in 6 minutes, don't go anywhere, because we have coming up
Noel Jackson with Music Satisfaction,
right here on 96.9 FM WHYRLP, Baton Rouge Community Radio. Just get that bass in my voice whenever we talk about Music Satisfaction. But anyway, you were saying, Joker?
That was like satisfaction. It's like when when you eat something real good, or you take that drink. It seems like you get a little bit low, like, yeah.
Joker, we have a call-in on the hotline all of a sudden. I got Russell Westbrook on the phone.
What's up, Russell?
Well, Russell, what you got? Thank you for calling Louisiana All American Sports. What you got for us today?
Down. Oh, no.
Yeah.
He's not saying that about Sierra, is he?
well, that's Russell Wilson.
Right.
I said Russell Westbrook.
Oh, that was Russell Westbrook.
That was Russell Westbrook.
I got my Russell W mixed up.
Yeah, it's a lot of alphabet soup. Russell, so did you and Kevin Durant talk? I mean, what happened when you heard about the signing?
Down.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks in OKC let that one rip out loud.
Man, you know, and he said that at the press conference that, you know, they asked him about Russell Westbrook.
Mm-hmm.
He said, yeah, of course I talked to him and everything, but at the end of the day, he was like, you know, I can't really consider everybody.
Sure, you gotta take care of yourself.
Right. At the end of the day, you know, I got to think about what I need to do, and so, you know, I know Russell Westbrook was like, he said, of course he's not happy about it, but
right,
you know, it is what it is. But I think Russell Westbrook now is going to probably try to see if he can get somewhere in California, because that's
maybe L.A.
Yeah. And another thing, I forgot to mention, Gerard said in his letter when he was talking about, and I'm gonna give you some inside stuff that I heard. I don't know how true this is, but they were. I'm trying to think of the incident. It was an incident where, it was an incident in Oklahoma. Oklahoma City is, you know, it's primarily like Native Americans and primarily white. It's not like a black city, so to speak. And Kevin Durant comes from Washington D.C. And so they said that even though he was well loved in the community, he did a lot in the community.
Yeah.
He donated $1 million when they had those tornadoes that came through there to Oklahoma City. So he was really attached to the community. But he said what hurt him one time was when Obama first got elected in 2008. They came to a home game and it was they throwed up Obama's picture and it was supposed to be like a celebration and the whole crowd booed. And he said that kind of stuck with him a little bit. So in his letter, I noticed he put in his letter that this was not only a move for him for his basketball, but he thought that it could enhance him for it. So, because he's going to Oakland now, so he's going to be in that area, and so I think that played a little small part. I won't say that was a determining factor, but I thought he said, hey, I need to, change my location.
It is an experience he has not had.
Now, and this is the point where I can really.
It's an experience he has not had professionally, and there's nothing wrong with that, and I think it's a small factor. I think ultimately, the opportunity to win was the driver. But hey, I remember, just as this is completely shifting gears, but my parents went to college in the '60s, and they went to LSUNO, which is now UNO in New Orleans. And I remember my dad decided to go to Howard for graduate school, and among other things, besides they offered him a good fellowship and blah blah blah, it was also 1965, and he kind of wanted to get out of the South for a little bit. I get that, but I remember him saying it was really different and kind of refreshing to be at a college environment where you're in the majority, where he was in the majority, where black people were in the majority. So he hadn't experienced that before. He said, you went to segregated high schools or whatever. And when he was in college, it was one of the first integration projects, and it's great. But he was very much a minority. He said it was different. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with making that a piece of your equation. When it's a piece of your equation,
And, he came out 18, 19 years old into the NBA. He only played
right out of
1 year in Texas, and so they was in Seattle in 1 year. And then they ended up going to Oklahoma City the next year and changing the name to the Thunder. And so I think a lot of that, and he's just saying basically developing as a man. I think that was a good experience for him. And now he's just on to another phase of life, man.
After 2 years in Oakland, he might be ready to go across that bridge to San Francisco when they open that new place. Oakland's a rough place, brother.
Hey, I would be remiss if I didn't mention something. It totally slipped my mind. I don't know if you knew this news, and I saw this today. I don't know. It's an actress named Issa Rae. And she heard about the Alton Sterling shooting, and she saw the press conference about the son. Actually, if you give me the thing, it's only going to take maybe 1 minute, and I can play it. It's only 1 minute and 34 seconds long. I want to play this to show you. This is very powerful for me. But she did something phenomenal, and this just go to show you the power of the people when they really want to do something.
So look, we got Noel Jackson coming up in just a moment. Stay tuned. Great show. Noel Jackson, Music Satisfaction. It's one of those shows where the name really lives up to the title, because he plays a lot of good music and it definitely provides some satisfaction. We got Issa Rae queued up.
It's queuing up, and of course, we get to the end of the show and it doesn't want to play. But I could just basically tell you what the story is. Let's see if it's going to play. Here it is. Go ahead, turn.
All right, go ahead.
Hi, and welcome to this segment of Your Black World News. I'm your host, Roosevelt Mitchell III. After hearing of and watching the murder of Alton Sterling on video, actress and writer Issa Rae started a GoFundMe scholarship fund for his children and she raised a lot of money.
We gotta
Her initial
jump
goal was to
round
raise
it.
$200,000, and she ended up raising over $473,000 by over 16,000 people in one day. The GoFundMe page link was shared on Facebook 49,000 times. These children have to deal with their father being murdered. The least they can do is have to not worry about a bright future going to school, and this money will help them do that. Issa wrote Wednesday evening, "Thank you for helping us raise the goal. I just got off the phone with the Sterling family attorney who is aware of the GoFundMe and has asked me to call back tomorrow, and the family is overwhelmed at this time."
And I thought, she raised over $460,000 in 2 days for the Alton Sterling kids. So they already have their college fund. And so I just thought they were just awesome. Over 16,000 people donated. That's us, the Louisiana All American Sports Show. Get ready for Noel Jackson and Music Satisfaction. And I want to thank you guys for listening.
I'm going to do Perry's shout out on his behalf since he's not here. ADTJNS, he loves you and have a good afternoon.
Hail to the king and lots of love. May he protect us from the evil. Hail to the king.